This is the world known as Evan, divided into 4 continents, each with the same climate throughout the year. The spring continent enjoys mild weather year-round, the summer continent has a tropical climate with scorching sunlight, the autumn continent has cool weather and gentle sunlight, where abundant harvests have been reaped for hundreds of years. And finally, the winter continent has a harsh, icy climate with cold winds and snow. As for Jean Locker's castle, situated in the Nakshi mountain range at the western end of the spring continent, we are currently on the completely opposite side of the winter continent, at the right tooth of the earth, located at the extreme east. And then he burst into laughter with tears. The 2 kids, not understanding what was wrong with Lois, whispered, "What's wrong, Lois? What's going on with you?" Lois, with tangled hair, didn't know what to do, silently thinking, "I can handle demons and ghosts, even the reincarnation thing, but can I overcome this strange and mysterious matter? My fate is threatened all day long, and the outside world is full of dangers. I have no intention of leaving home. But wait, what if someone finds out that I've disappeared from the castle? My father could turn into a maniac killer. That's right, I have a communication stone." Lois reached into his pocket and pulled out the communication stone that young Jean Locker had given him before leaving. But at this moment, his father was in another dimension. How could he communicate with him? Lois then fell to his knees in disappointment, while the other 2 looked on with puzzled faces. Lois turned to Butterfly Fairy Finn and asked, "Finn, is it possible to cross the Eastern Sea?" Immediately, Finn showed a resolute attitude and refused, "No, that's impossible. It's the Sea of Demons, a remnant from the most evil and poisonous dragons. The sea separates the winter continent from the spring continent, where all kinds of demons lurk, even dragons stay away from there, or even if you have the 4 attributes, at your age, you can't cross that sea." After hearing Finn's words, Lois sighed and said, "You're right, I was just asking. So, how long will it take us to cross the continents and reach Left Tooth Mountain?" Fairy Butterfly Finn responded, I'm not exactly sure, but if we walk, I'd guess about 10 years. Hearing 10 years, Lois's face turned pale, contemplating, 10 years, huh? If we hurry a bit, maybe we can make it back before Dad returns to the castle. Then Lois turned to look at the 2 mischievous kids and exclaimed, "Listen up, you 2, we're in big trouble. This is Right Tooth Mountain at the end of the winter continent. It'll take us 10 years of walking to get back home." The little brat Caney finally spoke up, "Then why don't we just fly back?" Irritated, Lois retorted, "Do you want me to get caught or something by flying? Forget it. We can't fly. We'll walk like humans and get there in 10 years. Then the little one, Khan, raised his hand and asked, "What if we can't make it back within 10 years? Lois, now serious, replied, "Well, my dad will return in another 10 years, and if we're not there, he'll burn down the whole continent to find us." The 2 kids looked puzzled and asked, "But why would your dad do that?" Lois's patience seemed to have worn thin by now, realizing these 2 weren't human after all, and he threatened, "Because they'll torture us. They might not buy us cakes or toys for 100 years. Upon hearing this, the 2 mischievous kids were suddenly terrified, whimpering and crying, "Oh no, that's horrible if true," Lois continued, "so no matter what, we need to get back before our dad returns, and from now on, I'll be in charge, so you have to listen to me." Upon hearing this, the 2 kids protested and vied for leadership with Lois. Lois then said, "Hey, listen up. The role of leadership is reserved for the smartest dragons. Are you smarter than me?" The 2 argued back, "But Lois is younger than us," one said, and the other chimed in, "Yeah, a lot younger." Lois, getting frustrated, shouted, "Hey, you 2, I'm taller than you, and you're only older than me by a month, so I'm the one in charge because I said so. Let me clarify a bit about the age issue here. Previously, they mentioned that the 10,000-year gap was because they were in egg form. As you may have read in some fantasy stories, dragon eggs require a lot of time to fertilize, with some dragons hatching faster than others, and some never hatching at all. So, the 10,000-year gap represents the time between when the dragon mother laid the eggs. Meanwhile, they only hatched a month apart. Seeing the situation, Fairy Finn spoke up, "We still have a long way ahead of us." After some arguing, the hierarchy within the group was established as follows: leadership by Lois, support from Finn, and the burden of the twins. Lois continued, "All right, we have everything we need now, let's go." The two behind reluctantly responded, "Okay, Captain." Suddenly, dark clouds gathered in the sky with thunder and lightning. Then Lois raised his hand towards the lightning stone on his wrist and said, "Hi, it's been a while." Surprisingly, the two mischievous kids rushed to hug him, saying, "Lois, you got struck by lightning again? I want to get struck by lightning too." Lois thought to himself, come to think of it, they've never been told that getting struck by lightning is extremely dangerous. Feeling helpless, Lois said, "All right, you two, just let go of me." They looked much bigger this time. "All right, let's see what's about to happen here." The two mischievous kids hugged Lois tightly with excitement, wanting to experience being struck by lightning once. "I give up on these two, wanting to get struck by lightning as well," but after waiting for a while, nothing happened. All three looked bewildered. Lois then said, "So the lightning bolt passed us by, huh? That's never happened before." Then there was a noise from the mountain. Lois looked up, his face horrified. It turned out to be an avalanche heading straight towards them. Lois realized, instead of aiming for me like usual, this time they're targeting the mountain. Lois then picked up the two mischievous kids and ran with all four legs, trying to escape. The two kids still hadn't grasped the seriousness of the situation and were still able to joke, saying, "Oh my, look at all the snow, so much snow." Then Lois turned back and yelled at them, "Hey, Burden team, transform quickly." Seeing this, Lois quickly used magic to create a purple square space around them, essentially creating a magic barrier to disconnect from the current space. However, the avalanche reached them, blowing away both the square block and the group. While Lois and Fairy Finn screamed in fear, the two mischievous kids laughed and giggled in excitement as they were blown away and buried in the snow. After a while, the avalanche subsided, and Lois managed to emerge from the snow with Fairy Finn on his head. Lois's face turned pale as he said, "Wow, I thought I was going to die this time." Behind them, the two mischievous kids were still laughing and said, "Lois, Lois, that was so much fun, let's do it again." Hearing this, Lois couldn't bear it anymore and angrily stepped forward to hit them on their heads, saying angrily, "You two need to grow up," Lois said sternly. "But that terrible avalanche has covered all the roads, so now we can't see anything, and it's no wonder we don't know where we are." Lost in thought, the two kids shouted, "Lois, Lois, look, it's like a snow pool here now, haha, let's dive in." Then Khan jumped up and dived down like a professional swimmer. Seeing this, Kani excitedly exclaimed, "Wow, I want to dive in too," and followed suit, diving into the snow. Feeling annoyed and helpless at their antics, Lois said, "Snap out of it and get out of there. We still have a long way ahead of us." Seeing that his words had no effect, Lois angrily approached and yelled, "Stop fooling around, quickly get out of there." As he stomped his foot, he suddenly fell into a hole. However, he managed to grab Fairy Finn and said, "Finn, fly and get me out quickly." Fairy Finn replied, "You make it sound so easy." Then both of them slid down into a deep, dark cave. They slid out of the cave entrance, hitting a rock wall, and flew straight up into the air. Suddenly, they stopped, and a voice came from above, "Hello, Lois, we're here." It turned out to be two baby dragons transformed by the mischievous kids. The dragon on the left with horns pointing upward was created by Kani, while the one on the right with horns pointing downward was created by Khan. Well, these two might actually be useful. They were holding on to Lois's legs and slowly flying him down to the ground. Then they jumped up and exclaimed, "Haha, this is so much fun." Lois, still recovering, turned to Fairy Finn and said, "Finn, I think I'm starting to respect them a bit, but where are we? Fairy Finn replied, it doesn't look like a naturally formed cave, it's more like an artificial corridor. Lois responded, you're right, but this is definitely my first time here. Why does it feel so familiar, like I've been here before? Fairy Finn asked. Now what do we do? Lois stood with crossed arms and said, all right, let's think about it and move slowly because we might stray far from the exit. Suddenly, the two mischievous kids ran off, saying, let's go this way, I think the exit is here. Yes, I'll go this way, and you go that way. Lois got frustrated and shouted, I said to take it slow. Slowly. Ignoring the captain's words, the two suddenly stopped. Lois asked in surprise, why are you two standing still? Then Caney pointed deep into the corridor and said, Lois, what are those? Lois looked in the direction but saw nothing but darkness. He asked, what do you mean? Then, a loud rumbling noise came from beneath the floor. And from the darkness emerged a group that looked like zombies from a video game. A figure with red glowing eyes at the head of the group advanced toward them. All three were frozen in place, and winter was coming. And with that, this chapter ends. Please leave your comments below, and I hope you subscribe to my channel to motivate me to release the next chapter soon. Thank you very much, goodbye.